Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Cruz.
This is Bryce Vine.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This
East.
is Sebastian Younger.
This is Daryl Ames.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
This is Dr. Bob Greenberg.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hey, everybody, this is Fran Strine, and you're listening to The Break It Down Show.
And now, The Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
Fran Strine is a filmmaker who specializes in music. He's captured the music and the musical journey of so many artists, to include Stained, Dolly Parton, Nickelback, many others.
Yeah.
And most recently in a wonderfully compelling film called Hired Gun that we want everybody to go see. If you haven't seen it already, go see it again if you've already seen it, because I guarantee that when I first watched that movie, I just fucking watched it again. I just went back and watched it a second time.
There's a lot of information to take in.
Yeah. It's just as compelling the second time, and then you try to retain all of that stuff. And, you know, you had so many great characters who populated the film that were intertwined.
Right.
And it really showed the beauty of the musical community while showing that if you want to be a rock star or anything associated with rock stardom, that shit is not easy.
It's a lot of sacrifice and definitely a lot of work to get to any of those points. When I interviewed David Foster, he told me a very valuable lesson. He's like, always surround yourself with people better than you.
Yeah.
Because they're going to make you stand out even further.
Yeah.
And in making this film, that's exactly what I did. You know, we interviewed him early on. I'm like, I feel like I could ramp this up a little bit more. So, yeah, I started hiring. It wasn't cheap, you know.
It's not cheap, and it's not easy on the ego.
No,
you know?
I went in with no ego, thank God, because I'd done documentaries in the past.
Could 23-year-old Fran have made that movie, though? Or did he have too much ego?
No, 23 years old. I was having. Are we allowed to swear?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, when I was 23. First of all, I didn't really get into the industry until I was about 30.
Okay.
I'm 52 now. But I had gotten divorced, had become a pretty successful photographer with a magazine called Metal Edge. Yeah, shot for Rolling Stone and all this stuff. So I got my first tour called Tattoo the Earth. And the only ego I had was how much pussy can I get out there, because it was like a smorgasbord, man. And it continued on, man. You got with Nickelback. I mean, those are like soccer moms. And it was just a whole lot of fun, you know. And then after a while, all that
That's still different pussy.
Yeah.
Soccer like, moms. Hey, this tour is going to be soccer moms.
Yeah.
Let's see what that's all about.
You got with Stained, it's going to be goth girls.
Yeah.
Yes.
Get a little taste.
So, anyway, yeah.
This one tastes like grape jelly. Let's come back.
So when you go out, you know, you have the fun, but you know, it's also a serious job, because somebody's always ready to take your gig from you. So you got to come prepared and do the gig and still have a good time. Yeah. But there was I don't think I've had much of an ego. No, I just consider myself extreme. I have no formal education for photography or filmmaking.
This is a great way to start off in a role where you just don't have time for ego.
You don't, yeah.
You're trying to
people don't like ego. When I come to LA, I'll see some of the ego people.
Yeah.
And they're just bottom feeding, like,
yeah, they're not going to get far.
Low level,
right?
Whatever they're doing. And you're right. Yeah, they're not going to. I don't think they'll get too far. Who wants to be around that? I want to be around people that are cool and work their asses off and actually deliver.
Yeah.
You know?
I would say, by and large, the people that we've interviewed are the latter. You know, they're really kind. JR is a great example.
Professional.
Yeah, professional but kind, and not like, oh, I'm playing kind. Like, he really is a nice person and genuinely is interested in what we're doing and wanted to contribute in the way that he can.
Mm-hmm. And you know who's my favorite person on earth? Rick Marotta.
Yeah, Rick.
My favorite guy on earth.
Okay.
Your favorite guy on earth is Jay Graydon.
Jay Graydon's the funniest guy I've ever met in my life.
Wow.
Like, I'll call. He's first of all, he's nocturnal. He doesn't even wake up. He eats breakfast at 9 p.m. I'm not kidding you. So he sleeps all day.
9 p.m.
Oh, yeah. So he'll call me at midnight sometimes. We'll sit there. I'll talk to him until 3 or 4 in the morning and forget what time it is.
Yeah.
But my stomach and face hurt so much from laughing.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
He's just one of the most bizarre, awesome, unique individuals I've ever met.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought my parents kept rock star hours because my mom and dad, man, they wake up. Sometimes I'll call them at like 2 in the afternoon, and they'll be like, yeah, we're just getting ready to have breakfast. But 9 p.m., fuck, that's another level. Like he's 12 hours different from everybody else.
Oh, yeah.
And if he went to Japan, he'd flip it probably and still get up at night. Like, he wouldn't be on the right time.
Well, he's wrecked. Like, he came to a couple of our screenings that we did that started at 7. And I had to beg him to come. He's
and
like,
it was like normal people waking up at 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I was like, could you know, we had one in Los Angeles. We had 2 of them in L.A. that he came to. One was for a Grammy screening.
Yeah.
And then another one was for the premiere.
Okay.
When we did our press screening.
Pretty big deal.
That was a big one. So I was like, I begged him to come to that. And he's like, this is going to fuck my whole week up. I'm going to get up at, 2 or 3 in the afternoon, have to get my shit together. Come down there. There's a red carpet thing with interviews and, like, press junkets and all that. And it tore him up. You can just tell. And, by the way, he's got OCD with, like, he, like, wears a mask and rubber gloves everywhere he goes.
Wow.
So he did the Q&A with, like, this thing on with the glove. It's just, he's just nuts. When we came to his house, he made us put on, like, surgical booties. And, we weren't allowed to touch anything. Yeah.
What a trip.
He is a bizarre individual.
Bizarre.
But such a good dude.
And a genius of a guitar
Genius
player.
guitar. I mean, when Steve Vai calls you a genius guitar player, then, I mean, he's so next level, like everything, like, if he's getting tones for his guitar, he'll try the mic position for 3 or 4 hours till he gets it perfect. You know?
When you're talking to all these different people, we found that they often defer to somebody else. Oh,
Right.
no, I'm good, but that. Who's the person that stands out in those kind of groups, like when there's a bunch of fingers pointing in the same direction?
Right. Well, the one person who I'm down here now in Calabasas doing a film with is Ray Parker Jr. So I had David Foster, Lukather, every one of those guys referred to him as the greatest living rhythm guitar player ever.
Yeah.
Including, like, Bob Ezrin, the producer, where I was in Nashville interviewing him, and we were talking about, all these session guys. He's like,
right.
There's nobody better. So Ray Parker probably is, when you hear him play a guitar, like he's got his home studio, so he just plug and start noodling around. It's mind-boggling.
Him horsing around is ridiculous.
Yeah, and he's like 6'5". He's a big dude, so he's got these giant hands, but the cleanliness of his playing.
So I want to, just for our
freakishly.
audience, we're talking about Ray Parker Jr. And if you have a puzzled look on your face right now and you're thinking, Ray Parker Jr., that's the name of the guy who wore a jerry curl and and sang the Ghostbusters song.
Well, here's what many people don't know.
That Ray Parker Jr. is the baddest fucking guitar player
ever on the planet Earth. Yeah. The funny thing is, you're exactly right. Everybody's like, he's the Ghostbuster guy, right? I'm like, yeah, but he'd retired before he wrote Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Like, he was already, had millions and millions of dollars in the bank.
Yep.
He had written for other people. Like, a lot of people don't know, but he wrote, for Shaka Khan and Rufus.
Sure.
You Got the Love.
Yeah.
He did New Edition, Mr. Telephone Man. He
wrote You Make Me Feel Like Dancing for Leo Sayer.
He didn't
never
get
got any credit.
Yeah, never got any. It broke his heart, And then as a solo artist, But it was funny, last night there's a show on CNN called The 70s.
Yeah.
It's like a docuseries.
Yeah.
It chronicles that whole decade. They were talking about music, and there's Stevie Wonder. 1971 in December on, like, Dick Clark show. And the camera pulls out, and there's Ray Parker Jr. behind him with his...
At age 16.
16 or 17,
Yeah,
and he played on... we do an album fight thing, and Ray Parker was on one of the tracks on... I can't remember what album it was from Stevie.
Yeah, Talking Book.
Talking Book. Yeah, he had one track on there. And the thing that I realized in doing that album fight is we'll do 2 albums, and track 1 versus track 1, track versus...
Gotcha.
So we score it like a boxing match.
Right, so
cool.
Stevie Ray Vaughan versus Stevie Wonder. 2 guys that are
nice.
just brilliant in their talent. And what you heard was Stevie Wonder, of course, is wonderful, but he got more wonderful when he surrounded himself with great people like Ray Parker, because when he did it himself on the keyboard, you're like, that's all right. It's beautiful. Yeah. But that's better when Ray's there or when Jeff Beck is there.
Right.
It's that same thing that David Foster said. You got to put those people around you because
you have to.
They have better ideas than you do, and also they'll take something in a different direction that you don't know to take it.
And create better ideas from you.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll tell you one thing I learned, the value of surrounding yourself with good people. Our sound recordist that did all the interviews for Hired Gun, his name is Thomas Corcoran. And for whatever reason, he couldn't do one of the interviews. We were in Oklahoma City, following some band around or whatever, following a guitarist. So I had to hire a local guy. So you don't know what they're coming. You know what I mean? So he shows up. The audio is shit. We couldn't even use any of it.
Oh, wow.
None of it. So right there, I was just like, I'll cancel every shoot until Thomas is available. I won't use, even today, I won't use anybody else. Like,
right.
So he's out doing a feature till the 20th. So I've halted all production until the 20th till he comes back. Same thing with my DP. You know, I won't do any work.
You got to use your people.
They're the best in the business. Yeah, and I'm lucky to have them.
Wow,
sure.
That's how it is with like Nathan East when he plays bass. There's
David Foster said that he goes, I will not do a track without Nathan East. Period.
Done.
I will cancel the session.
Eric Clapton says the same thing.
Yeah.
So does Chick Corea.
Yeah. It's like without Nathan, there's no bass.
Yeah.
Well, Chick Corea uses other bass players.
Sure, but I mean,
Babyface doesn't.
No.
And so Babyface and Phil Collins and Eric Clapton have to arm wrestle over Nathan East.
Yeah. What a great position to be in.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. There's another guy who could have retired a long time ago.
Yeah.
Because he's got plenty of money. But, you know, the thing that was really punctuated in Hired Gun was the humanity of all of the musicians. Because a lot of times we see these guys and we think about how their gifts touch us, and we think, well, they must be doing great. And the fact is that it's a life that's difficult, and it's really wrapped around a whole lot of sacrifice.
It is.
Mark Schulman, you know,
Mark's great,
yeah, he's amazing. But, I mean, even he said the thing that he gets paid for nowadays is not the playing, it's the missing of his, you know, what he gets paid for what he misses.
Yeah.
You go out, you're on the road, your daughter's birthday, or, you know, all the things that most people take for granted.
20 years of touring, I missed a lot of birthdays.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. My son's, he played T-ball whenever he was young. I remember a friend of mine was giving me play-by-play while I was in Amsterdam or whatever.
Yeah. You know, when we had Nathan on the show afterwards off mic, he was meeting the guy. We do a lot of times do our shows over in West Hollywood at at Hilliard Guest's office. He's a writer.
Okay.
When Nathan's leaving, he says, "Hey, you know, here's my card. You ever need anybody to play the low notes? I'm your guy." So I mean, even though he has David Foster and all these guys calling him, he's constantly
pimping himself out.
Constantly
working.
You have to. And he's a wonderful guy, and I'm not saying that negative thing, but that is the world they live in. You don't know where the next gig's going to come from. You have to be open. You have to say yes.
Oh, man, since Hired Gun, I can't tell you how many of the musicians, I won't name any names, but they're like, they know I'm in the music industry, and I know a lot of people are like, well, my gig's about to be up in about a week.
Right.
What you got? You know anything? Yeah, that kind of thing, right?
You've got the greatest gig in the world until you don't.
Exactly.
And then you have to figure out the next gig.
Yeah. So since Hired Gun, there's a drummer in there. His name's Chris Johnson.
Okay.
Another great dude. At the time, he was playing with Rihanna, right? And this is how many bands he's been in since Hired Gun. We interviewed like maybe 2 years ago. Rihanna, he took a little break. Then he went to Madonna. That ended. He went to J-Lo for a residency in Vegas. Then from J-Lo, he went to Seal. Then from Seal to Lady Gaga when she did her stadium tour last year. And he invited me to that. And now he's with Camila Cabello, I think is her name, like some big pop star.
Yeah.
But he's always getting the giant gigs. Always getting them. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's on a TV show now called The Four. Or something like that. It's kind of like an American Idol type thing on ABC or one of those networks. But phenomenal drummer. Always gets the call because, A, he's badass.
He shows up on time.
And you got to just be cool.
Yeah.
And he's one of the coolest cats ever. Yeah. That's another big thing a lot of people don't realize. We talked about ego earlier.
Yeah.
You cannot come in there with an ego to a gig because you'll be gone immediately.
Yeah. Being good is like 27th on the list.
Yes.
You know, the thing is, there's one guy who gets to have the ego, and it's Stevie Wonder. And insert Stevie Wonder. It might be Elton John, or might be – there's the one guy. And that's the name on the ticket that everybody's buying.
Right.
Everybody beyond that has got to work to enhance the experience of the ticket buyer, concert goer, whatever, on behalf of that person. And if you don't fit into that, you're not going to last long.
No.
Yeah.
I can tell you a funny story. I can't tell who the artist is because he asked me to share the story with anybody, but there's a guy in the movie. He's a guitarist. They kind of made him a band member in this band. All of a sudden, he's appearing in the music videos and on merchandising, on the T-shirts and posters. So he called the artist I was like, hey, man, I'm noticing my face on everything. He goes, you think I can get a little cut of that stuff on the T-shirts or anything? Like some merch, anything? Then he said it was the longest 15-second pause of his life. He's like, what the fuck did I just do?
Yeah.
And the voice on the other phone goes, there's only one face on that T-shirt that sells, and you're speaking to it.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to the thing with ego. Like, is it for Elton John? Yes, some of it's ego, but some of it is because it's my fucking name on the goddamn ticket.
Yeah.
And you will do what I tell you to do because they're here to see me. I need you to deliver.
Every night.
Because
Every
I
night.
have to deliver.
Right.
And so the thing about being in the supporting cast is you got to understand that supporting role is there because the star needs the support.
Yeah.
He's got a thing to absolutely deliver night after night after night. And I'm not saying that to say that the sidemen make a sacrifice and the star doesn't make a sacrifice, because I'm sure every single one of the people that we've, talked about that Chris plays drums for or any of the other gigantic gigs, they've got their enormous sacrifices that they make as well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And, Mark told us about Pink and where, for all of the work that all of the guys are doing, she starts doing that work 8 months before everybody else.
Yeah.
So
She takes care of her guys, though.
Yeah.
They're well taken care of.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, like Eric Clapton doesn't need to worry about anything other than being Eric Clapton on that stage. Mm-hmm. And, again, that's not about ego. That's about being a pro. So off to his left is Nathan, and he's not worried about a fucking thing. No. Nathan's going to lay it down. Behind him is Steve Gadd.
Yep.
And that guy is not – there's no problem. There's no
Guess
ego.
where one is.
Yeah.
It was exactly where it was last night.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be there tomorrow night.
Yeah.
So, the flip side of that is we have a really, really dear friend. His name is Rich Aguan, and he was Chris years ago, a generation ago, like the MC Hammer when he was the biggest thing in the universe. He was on that tour. And then Paula Abdul was the biggest thing, and he was on that tour. And, he got those calls for a while. And, as your career progresses, when you're that guy, the central casting look and feel of that guy remains a particular age.
Right.
And as you get older and older, you don't, have that gig becomes less and less available to you. But nobody has the school of, hey, you're getting these giant gigs now. Here's how you deal with it when it tapers off. Because there's no training program for that.
Like, my salary from Hired Gun is over. So now moving on, I'm living on what I have in the bank.
Yeah.
Until the next I'm not getting a salary from just whoever.
Yeah.
I own a production company.
Yeah.
And I do commercial work on the side, whatever, so it pays the bills. But, it's not like I'm getting crazy residuals from Hired Gun.
Yeah. Wow.
I got paid a very nice salary.
Uh-huh.
And then I get a piece of the back end,
Okay.
Yeah.
Along those
the next
ends,
project.
everybody, go buy a copy of Hired Gun.
Yeah, fuck Netflix.
It's
No,
amazing.
I love Netflix. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go buy the bonus, the DVD and Blu-ray have bonus material that you can't get on Netflix.
And guess what? The amount of content that you'll see on Netflix is great. You'll get 6 times that amount of content if you actually patronize the product.
Yes.
So I don't know if it's 6
It's
times, but it's a lot more. And
I think on Amazon you go buy it for like $11.
There you go.
With a bunch of cool stuff on it.
If your cousin likes music, here you go. If someone wants to get into music, here you go. Send them a copy of the movie.
Well, that's the first thing Ray said when Ray saw the cut at South by Southwest when we did the world premiere. We brought in like 16 of the cast, and we did the Q&A up on stage after the film. The first thing he said is like,
let's for our listeners go through who you brought in, because this will be a good teaser. You brought in Ray Parker Jr.
Oh, yeah, and matter of fact, that interview is on the bonus DVD. It's like an hour long.
Well, see, there you go.
Yeah.
Buy the fucking bonus
We brought
DVD.
in Chris Johnson, Ray Parker, Kenny Aronoff, Phil X, Rudy Sarzo, Liberty DeVito, Russell Javers, Jeremy Spencer. Who else?
There's a lot of greatness on that stage.
It was just incredible. Like a lot of people. Ray, the first thing he said was like, the first thing I'm going to do when I get home is force my children to watch this movie because they both want to be musicians.
Yeah.
And I want to show them the harsh realities of what it takes to get there.
Yeah.
And let's face it, if you watch that movie and you want to be a musician, it's not going to discourage you.
No,
if
not
you
at all.
really fucking want it.
Yeah.
But it
Well,
is
you know
going to
what's cool?
it is going to make you examine whether you really fucking want it.
Yeah. Well, here's the cool thing about being a hired gun that you don't have to do if you're the star. because I've worked with a star before, and I have to follow them around, shadow them like a tick. The hired gun doesn't have to wake up at 6 in the morning, get dressed, do a photo shoot.
Right.
They don't have to go to
morning radio
or television shows or barbecue a day off to go to Leno or whoever's out right now. And those were the things I had to follow these guys around. So in essence, I had no off days.
Yeah.
You
had to do it all too.
Doing my work and then follow these guys around. And it's a cool experience, but after you do it 8 times, you don't give a shit anymore. You'd rather have your day off.
It's still work.
You got to go.
Yeah.
You got to go promote the material. If you don't, especially today's climate, forget it.
Yeah. When you are making a movie like Hired Gun or this project you're working on with Ray Parker Jr., where does that idea generate from?
Ray was kind enough, and believe me, he doesn't have to do it. If we got to drive you down about 1 mile to his house, and your face will just melt off when you see this guy lives in a castle. It's beautiful.
Our face might melt off because it's 155 degrees outside.
Yeah, it's really hot today here in California. And I'm sorry if I'm dragging snot through my face, but I have a cold on top of everything else.
Yeah.
So there was no incentive for Ray to do other than he liked the movie, and we get along really well.
Yeah.
We're pretty good friends at this point now.
That's awesome.
So we were traveling around the world promoting Hired Gun. He went to Australia with me, the UK, all over the country at every film festival. And when I interviewed him for Hired Gun, he just got in from Japan that morning. So he was exhausted. So you got to remember, he's 66, so he's forgotten more than he remembers. But he still told me some pretty cool stories.
Yeah.
But while we're traveling,
the stories came out.
The stories came out. You got a 16-hour flight to do.
Yeah. He's 66 years old.
Yeah, he's in great shape.
Jesus, he's in great shape.
Let me tell you something. He's the most positive individual. I mean, he gets up at 6:30 at the tennis court at 7:30 for 3 hours. Then we meet right here at Starbucks for another 2 hours just to bullshit, with the people.
Yeah.
And then we get to work. And the work is getting a Zoom, like we're recording right here, and I sit there and we go back to his earliest childhood memory and work our way up. And there's stuff that he just was like, I remember this now,
Yeah. You knock the logs loose and something else comes.
Yeah. I was like, did you ever play on any TV show? He goes, matter of fact, I did. I played guitar on The Jeffersons Moving On Out,
No kidding.
Oh, yeah. Sanford and
That's
Son.
going way back.
Yeah, all that stuff. So, and Bill Withers, he failed to mention that at 17 he played on Lovely Day. That's him. That's the guitar. That's Ray Parker Jr.
Yeah, that sounds like Ray Parker Jr.
And by the way, Bill Withers shows up at his house unannounced when I'm there a lot. And it freaks me out.
He just pops in.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's an icon.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sitting there. We're having.
He's just going slumming over at Ray Parker's house.
He gets a text. He's text Ray, and he's like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "What?" He's like, "Bill's out in the parking lot. He's asking for us to let him in." I'm like, "What?" And he'll come over like Jeffrey Osborne came over one time.
Jesus.
Whoever.
Yeah.
So it's always an interesting.
You're just listening to LTD on the way down here. When we met Ray Parker Jr., I saw him. We were coming down the stairs. We were at Roland, and there was a girl who was checking him in, and he had a guy with him who was saying, "You ought to take a picture with this guy," meaning Ray. And the girl, she leaned in for a picture, and it was, but I don't think she knew who he was.
Right.
And as I came down the stairs, and he's saying this, I said, "That's the greatest fucking guitar player you're ever going to meet." And Ray Parker looked up as we were coming downstairs, looked up at us, and he points and he goes, "I like this guy." And so we sat there and talked with him for a little while. I said, "Ray, let me get a selfie." So we...
Oh, he's the selfie king.
Yeah. So we took a selfie. As we're taking a selfie, I'm looking at the camera. I'm like, man, this is a terrible angle for me to get a selfie because my fat ass, I got a big neck. And I'm like, "Ray, you're making my neck look fat." And he goes, "I don't care about your neck. I care about my neck." And, he was just, we had a great time with him. He just, seemed like the greatest guy. And then of course, we hit him. "Hey, come do our podcast."
I'm sure he said, yeah, he loves to do a podcast.
He did, but he didn't give me his number. But he did say yes.
I think I can arrange that for you.
But anyway, we checked out his podcast.
And I helped him produce that.
Spectacular.
Yeah.
It is so good. We were watching the episode with Rudy Sarzo, who is also, by the way, amazing. Of course, we've been following him around since we were young metalheads.
Man, let me tell you something. When I went to go, and he was one of the first people we interviewed.
Yeah.
And we had to interview him twice. Yeah. The first interview was like a long form, 6-hour type thing. We're sitting there all day. And he really glazed over that whole tragic event.
No kidding.
Yeah, he didn't. I don't know if he wasn't in the right headspace to talk about it or whatever, but I knew after that interview that he would be one of the main focuses in Hired Gun. Like one of the 3 or 4 people really pinpointed. So I called him. I'm like, man, I go, Rudy, I have to re-interview you again. He's like, okay, what do you want to talk about? I was like, well, as I'm listening to the linear narrative of your story, to me it seems like had it not been for that horrific tragedy that, of course, you don't want, your career probably wouldn't have, you probably would not have rejoined Quiet Riot and had all that success and then leapfrog over to Whitesnake during their pinnacle.
Yeah.
He got it, but I could hear the hesitation in his voice a little bit because it's so painful for him to talk about. And I told him I'd be respectful to the cut and I'd let him have approval if he wanted to look at it because it was a very sensitive subject for him to talk about.
Sure.
So he agreed to do it, and we show up, and that's the only thing we talked about. I was like, just take me. I just basically asked him to take me back to that day and just give me a recollection of what happened.
Yeah.
And he went there. You can see it in his face on that thing. I got to tell you, me and the crew, there's 6 of us in there. We're like weeping.
Not a dry eye.
Not a dry eye in the whole room, including him.
But that's what you have to do as a storyteller. That's what we have to do. We have to find that moment and then sit and pause in it.
Right.
Because it's easy just to go right by. Oh, yeah, I played guitar for a couple of years, and I played for Stevie Wonder, and no, slow down.
Yes.
Well, especially when it's a horrific event and you kind of don't want to drudge it back
and
up.
then you want to ask the question, like, if you knew that it would take this test of everything to get to where you are now, like, what would you tell yourself 10 minutes before?
Right.
Let me tell our listeners, Rudy Sarzo was a bass player for Ozzy Osbourne and was on the tour where Randy Rhoads lost his life. And he was not just on the tour, but, intertwined. And the event itself, it was a plane crash, and it hit the bus, and Rudy was asleep on the bus.
Right.
So it was not the gravity of this situation. We could reach in deep as we want. We're not going to relate to all of the gravity that exists in the situation for Rudy Sarzo.
And the same thing with Doug Stagmeyer's death. That really affected Liberty and Russell tremendously.
You could see that in your work, too. Like, you could see that the thing. And it's one thing to tell and describe a story. It's another thing to create the emotion.
Right.
It's such
we
a
know what
powerful
creates
thing.
the emotion as well, which a lot of people gloss over, is the movie score.
Sure.
Because that really, the story's already sad enough, but you mix in a really good score.
Right.
Some
Well, I'm
music
going to
under it.
I'm going to push back on you for that because not to say that the score is not crucial.
Right.
But one of the things that Malcolm Gladwell says is that he doesn't make up the story. He finds the story.
Right.
And then he shines the light on the story and he opens up all of the emotion that's in the story. And that's what you've done with this movie.
Right.
You didn't make up any of this shit.
No, not at all.
You went and found all these great stories from these musicians who had lived through these amazingly wonderful to horrifically tragic experiences and helped them share something with us as the audience.
I know when I go watch a movie, I'm a giant pussy.
Yeah.
I cry easy, man. I want to go see if you're listeners, if you haven't seen it yet, immediately go see Won't You Be My Neighbor, the story of Mr.
Fred
Rogers.
Yeah.
I sat there, and as a man, you don't want to start busting out crying.
A man with a dog named Fang.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sitting in the very back of the theater, one of these recliner things, and there's one scene that comes up, and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
You can feel the lump in your throat, and then all of a sudden you can almost feel the tear well up, and then you swallow to try to keep this is not going to happen right now.
Yeah.
And then something happens in a scene.
Yep.
The next thing I know, I'm vomiting tears.
And you're out. Yeah.
I'm out. Forget it. I'm tapping out with the rest of the audience. They're all, you can hear everybody wailing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh my God, it was amazing. And that's the kind of movie I want to see. If I'm moved.
Yeah.
The filmmaker's done his job.
What's the kind of movie you made?
Whatever kind of tears it is,
That's what I wanted to make.
Yeah.
I knew going in, I was sitting in Singapore when I came up with the idea for Hired Gun. I was like, I didn't want to tour anymore. Especially don't want to tour with the band I was with. It was horrible. Bad experience. A band called Five Finger Death Punch. The name says it all.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I'm
pretty prominent in the film as well.
Yeah. Yep. So I was like, when I'm 50 years old, I'm 7 weeks away from home again, going around the world. I just gotten really sick, and I ate some bad fish or something in Japan. I don't know where we were, but I got really sick. I'm like, I'm done with this. What am I going to do? And I've done documentaries in the past that the record label's fronted, so there's not a giant budget. So I knew going into making Hired Gun, when I came up with the concept, it's got to be done world class. Like, I cannot spare any expense. It must be shot with the best gear. And we shot it with the red. Must be mixed at the greatest facility. I was lucky enough to get into Skywalker Ranch.
Wow.
Yeah, we mixed the film there.
That is evident
lucky.
from the first frame of that movie.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I live in Marin County, and Lucas Valley Road is one exit up from me where I live going north. And if you go down Lucas Valley Road 6 or 7 miles.
Do you know Chris Barron?
I don't.
He works there. He's a sound guy.
Okay.
Anyhow.
Yeah, so I was just like, you know what, I'm going to just reach out. And I learned making this movie, if you don't ask the question, they can't say yes.
Yeah.
Instead of always thinking negative, I'm like, well.
And you're already starting with a no because they don't know you.
Exactly.
So you just
ask. Yeah, so there's only one email address. There's no, like, who's the production guy or, like, the guy. It's just info@Skywalker Ranch. So you don't know if you're reaching a secretary or some whatever.
Right.
So I just wrote a cold email. My name is Fran. I'm a local Marinite filmmaker. I have this movie.
You're not a Mariniac?
A Mariniac.
Whatever.
So the next day I get a return. It's like, do you have anything we can see? I'm like, as a matter of fact, I do. We have a sizzle reel that's about 4 minutes long. So I sent it over. 10 minutes later, evidently they watched the thing.
10 minutes later?
10 minutes later, I get an email back. We must mix this movie.
Nice.
And usually the first thing you hear after that is like, what is your budget?
Yeah.
Well, they were like, can we submit a bid to you? A bid? I was like, yeah, fuck yeah. So I was looking at places down here in L.A. to mix just in case, and that's, $40, $50,000.
Yeah.
And when their bid came out, I don't want to say what it is. I don't want to lose that bid again, but it was more than half off to do it at Skywalker Ranch. And by the way, when we went there, the first thing ever was like, what is Skywalker Ranch like? I'm like, close your eyes.
Yeah.
And whatever you think it is, that's what it is.
Wow.
It's that special. Yeah. So you're going through 3 levels of security just to get to the building, tech building. So we get in there, and there's 5 sound stages there. So I'm like, what else is mixing here? And they had the remake of Ben-Hur. They were scoring there. They had an orchestra.
Oh, wow.
They were doing Star Wars Force Awakens, Finding Dory 3, and Steven Spielberg was doing Big Friendly Giant, and then there's Hired Gun.
Yeah.
So we were in that kind of company.
Oh, man.
And I'm like,
Big
this
shot.
is great. Yeah, it definitely was. It felt like a big shock. And they treat you like royalty.
Yeah.
Like you go in, they have these like servants.
That's kind of how it is when we're sitting in a restaurant eating dessert with Fran Strine.
Yeah, right.
We're going to have some cheesecake or something.
Yeah. So it was really, really cool experience. And then we got to watch the movie in the Stag Theater.
Okay.
Which is there. And it's 70,000 watts of power. And I'm like, I'll never hear my movie sound this good again.
Yep. That is like that's the THX.
Yeah. Well, the first one,
prototype ground.
Here you go. Here's another cool, interesting fact about Hired Gun. We did an audience test screening. So you want to get like 200 people in a room and like, what does this need more of?
Yeah.
What moved you? What didn't move you? Blah, blah, blah. Well, we did it at the original Lucasfilm building, which is in downtown San Rafael. It used to be just called Kearney Optical. There was never a Lucasfilm because fans would just show up.
Yeah.
But it's just in this nondescript industrial warehouse area. But you go in and there's this immaculate movie theater. And that's where we did and that's where George Lucas invented THX. So the film sounded great, and it wasn't even mixed at the time. Remember, this is just a rough first copy that was 2.5 hours long. Yeah, it was really, really neat experience.
I had a friend, Chuck Hilbert, who I'll shout out. He passed away. Rest in peace, Chuck. But he was a member of the press, and when the new Star Wars, the middle trilogy that we all talk about in a derogatory way, the Jar Jar Binks trilogy.
Oh God!
When that came out, the first one of those, whatever that was called, he got one
Phantom Menace.
The Phantom Menace. Yeah. The Phantom Menace came out.
Did you cry?
He got one of the.
I cried because I bet it sucked.
Yeah, he got one of the coveted press invitations, and they took him out to a place at Skywalker Ranch where it was an old vintage gas station. And that's all you saw was an old vintage gas station in the middle of nowhere. And then when you went into the little kiosk where you tell the guy that you need a brake job or whatever, there was an elevator in there that went down, and the theater was subterranean.
That's awesome
and amazing.
It doesn't surprise in San Rafael. George Lucas lives there.
Yeah,
I didn't know that either. I moved there.
He's from there.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, he lives 1 block over from me.
Oh, no kidding.
And I went into
you
Starbucks.
live in a nice neighborhood.
I do. I'm very lucky. I go into Starbucks, and there's George Lucas. And I'm like, is this really George? Because nobody's fucking with him. And there's a reason.
Yeah.
He's one of the most unapproachable looking people you've ever met in your life. Like, he's got that aura about him, like, don't approach me because I'm going to bite your face off. So I've seen him 200 times probably.
Yeah.
Never met him.
Wow.
Matter of fact, he was at the ranch a lot too when we're mixing. It's like, but you don't talk to the guy. Period.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You should talk to him.
I'm too scared.
This episode of the Break It Down Show is brought to you by Lions Rock Productions.
That's us.
We publish, evaluate, and develop podcasts just like this one, consult others to build their own, and create associated content and content marketing strategies.
So if you're launching or expanding your social media presence, your business or your personal brand, or if you just want to take your media presence to the next level,
Reach out to us on Twitter
at Pete A. Turner,
or at JohnLG69.
at the Break It Down Show.
There's 1,000 ways to get a hold of us.
Now enjoy the show.
I mean, if you saw him and the look,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now, you should talk to him. And not because he's George
No,
Lucas.
you're a filmmaker.
But you're a
You guys
filmmaker.
are in the fraternity, man.
You're in the same business, and nobody talks to him.
nobody.
So you're going to be like, hey, I want to ask you a question.
He won't even look. It's like this.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
He won't look at you
He
like
doesn't
this.
even
Some
look at
people will do
people.
this. He's
Yeah.
straight ahead looking. Like, I'm not going to look at anybody because I don't want anybody to approach me.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's that, rigid.
I
saw,
You should absolutely talk to him.
Up. This
That
is
was
my
great.
experience
Yeah.
about my grandfather had passed on just before watching that movie, and I was still processing it for sure. But when I watched the movie and they had the montage with the wife,
Right.
I lost it. I completely.
Everybody cries in that part. It's
Yeah.
so
I
powerful.
came so unglued that my wife said there people around us were coming up and putting their hands on her and saying, "Is he okay?"
Yeah.
And oh man,
Tell
know,
you, man, to go watch Mr. Rogers' movie.
this
It's
is the
same thing.
power of film. And the thing is,
And that's a cartoon.
It was cathartic. I
Yeah.
needed to do that real
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
And so, man, I'm really looking forward to.
And we're talking about a shitty-looking piece of archive footage from 1973 on Mr. Rogers. That had everybody, like, hosed.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
man. I'm into
Yeah.
it. I will
Yeah.
definitely go see that movie.
You know when else John cries, and I'm saying this to poke fun, but I definitely well up too, is that last scene in Wrecking Crew when Tommy, the director's dad, walks away, and then you realize it's really him,
Yep.
and it is the end of the story. You're just like, oh,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's just, it's
I'll never
powerful.
forget watching the Rudy Sarzo cut with Randy. I probably weeped the first 20 times we saw it just in the edit bay.
Yeah. Ooh, strawberry shortcake. Salted caramel ice cream sandwich.
So the other day, I wrote, we do this thing, the album fight thing, and I write notes, right? And, of course, I Love You Too. So they're like my favorite band.
Okay.
And they were in the fight. And I wrote a note that moved me so much, I made myself cry.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was real proud of the fact that I did that, but I really, like, it really mattered to me what I wrote. And it was just 8 words, but I'm like, God, I wish if I could do that
Right.
a little more often. It would be sweet. You know?
Right.
And then some of the people, we used to have, Mark Valley was a co-host, and he's moved on to do his own podcast, which is awesome, by the way. It's called The Live Drop. He knows that stuff because he's an actor, and he needs direction one time, and then he's got it. He looks at the script, and he's got it.
Right.
And when he explains things, he explains from a point of view of emotion, and I'm like, oh, man, I wish I had that like tool. He's built it over time.
Right.
But what are those things that you see from the people that you work with? I mean, Dolly Parton. What are the incredible things that they have where you're like,
Let me tell you something.
Yes.
Meeting Dolly.
tell me
the first
something.
time.
Yeah.
This is how crazy this industry is. So I used to work with a band called Slipknot. There
Right.
were all these masks. It was
Yes.
a crazy metal band. And the tour manager was Danny Nozell. After a while, he was gone. Like, I hadn't heard from him for a minute. Then I heard that he got a job working for Dolly. Well, he's not Dolly's tour manager. He's her worldwide manager.
Oh, wow.
Manager, like the guy.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to get to Dolly, you got to get to him.
Yeah.
So he called me out of the blue one day, and he's like, hey, man, we're thinking about revamping Dolly's image a little bit, making it a little bit more rock and roll, and I thought of you. Would you like to come film a live DVD concert with her in London? I was like,
Yes.
fuck yeah, I would. Yeah, the answer is yes. What do I have to do?
Right.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, we'll have a call with Dolly and work out logistics and everything else. I'm like, okay. So we get on the call, and there's Dolly on the telephone, and I'm like, trying not to stutter because I don't get starstruck off of it. This is Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton for crying out loud.
Yeah. So she couldn't be any sweeter. She's exactly like she is Dolly Parton. That's her 24 hours a day, by the way. So she's like, well, what do you, tell me a little bit about your company. I was like, yeah, I own my own production company and have this group of people I work with that I really like, that I trust. She goes, okay, so you're telling me you'd rather bring them from the States and hire local. I was like, in the perfect world, yes, done. You got any kids? I'm like, yeah, I have a son who's like, at the time he was 15 or whatever. You think he'd like to go to London?
Say what?
Oh, yeah. I was like, I'm sure he would. It was summertime. It was in July. She's like, well, we'll just get him a ticket and he can come hang out with you for 2 weeks. I was like, okay. So I was able to bring him, my whole crew, and we get to the O2 Arena in London. It's gigantic.
Yeah.
It's like a stadium.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
it's enormous.
It's enormous. I'm looking at the lighting and all the rigging and our cameras, and we had one jib, right? If anybody knows what a jib is, the big long arm with the camera on it that gets all these crazy scope images that are larger than life. And immediately I was like, we're going to need more lighting. We're going to need another jib. And Danny's like, well, let's go talk to Dolly. This is her funding this thing. So I'm like, okay. She goes, what's the problem? I'm like, well, there's not enough lighting to get the top tier of the arena. And if we want to show the whole audience, you're going to miss 8,000 or 9,000 people because they're blacked out. If you want to see it all, we need to light that thing up like a firecracker. And we're going to need another jib in the back of the arena because the one camera is only going to get half this arena. The other one could just be spinning around, just getting everything.
Done.
Whatever you need to get it.
Done.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, if we're going to have this problem again, we did another 2 shows in Glasgow. If we're going to have this problem there, just go ahead and
think ahead.
Just do it.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So we did it. Yeah, we did all that. The DVD came out, and it did really, really well. It went gold. So she presented me with a big gold plaque album and all this. She's really cool. And then Danny knew that I was also a photographer. I was a photographer before I was a filmmaker. And he had asked me, I was on the road with the band Stained, and we were in Kansas City. I'll never forget it. And he calls me. He's like, hey, can you be in Nashville tomorrow morning? I'm like, well, I'm on the road. You know what I mean? For another 3 weeks. He's like, well, Dolly needs an album cover done and then some press photography.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Any way that you can skip out for a day or two? So I went and talked to the guitar player who's kind of the leader of Sting, Mike Newshock. Like, Mike, I got this really cool opportunity. He goes, go.